Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Kiera with Home Slice Adulting, and I'm coming to you today with my review for season 9 episode 3 of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now this episode actually, I was not bored at all. Let's go ahead and get started. First we start off with Phaedra, Porsha, and Sheree sitting down to have some lunch and talking about things that happened in the previous episode, about Kenya trying to check Sheree about all of the things that Sheree had said about her house and what needed to be done. They talked about the new trend of camel toe, and apparently, according to Phaedra, you can buy camel toe. I don't understand that. I've never heard of that. But anyways, I thought it was a little hilarious when they were talking about if Kenya was saying that, you know, a little penis or a little bit of penis will do you good. I thought that was funny. But next we see Kenya working out with Matt, and they've been back together for 2 weeks, and Kenya looks like a Barbie doll. Kenya has always had a really great body, but something about her in that moment looked very Barbie dollish to me. So next we see them going back and forth between the scene with Matt and Kenya and with Porsha, Phaedra, and Sheree, and they're discussing everything that happened, and Sheree claims that Kenya slept her way to the top of the Z-list acting movies thing, and I don't necessarily know if that's true, but it is pretty much Z-list. That part is true. Sheree reveals that her house is not in her mother's name. The house is in a trust, which is just as bad in my opinion, but whatever. It was funny to me how Porsha was like, you know, your mama probably put bills in your name, Sheree, so, you know, it ain't nothing to put the house in your mama's name now. So I thought that was funny. They called Kenya a groundhog. They didn't believe that she was living in that house, and that if she was, she had to be wearing a hazmat suit, and there was no way that she was doing Matt in a hazmat suit. So, you know, they're just being shady. And Matt said Matt was the only one with some sense in, you know, these whole 2 scenes. And Matt was like, you know, you guys are scary and you're very catty, and, you know, I would just stay out of it. And I'm like, Kenya should definitely take Matt's advice. He's finally making some sense. So next we see Kenya and Matt still in the same scene, discussing the family reunion that's coming up. And as she's walking away, her butt just looks totally fake. Whatever, moving on. Next we have Kandi, Todd, the baby, and Kandi's crew, who are just overly messy, but we'll talk about that more later. Apparently they're trying to have a block party for the old lady gang restaurant. Kandi is very negative about the situation, understandably so. I mean, she feels like things are not going the way she wants them to go, and you know, things are not being done on the timeline that she would like them to be done in. And so she was saying, you know, old lady gang is not going to be a Chateau Sheree. It's not going to be years in the making, because we all know how Kandi handles her business. Kandi is just over it with the old lady gang. So next we see this woman come in, and I don't know why she looks so familiar to me, but the woman's name is Kris Kelly. She's Jamaican, and she says, oh, I look different and I've never been here, but I was in the neighborhood, so I want to say hi. And she starts speaking to the baby, and everybody is like, who is this and why is she popping up at the candy factory? And I was the same way. I was like, who? And all of a sudden, you know, Kandi says, this is Kris. She signed to block, and they all knew what that meant, but I didn't know what it meant. And in the confessional, or she says block is Riley's dad, or aka her baby daddy. So next we see like Kandi saying, you know, nobody just pops up at the candy factory, so like what is the deal? Why is she here? And the girlfriend is signed to Block's label, which probably isn't going anywhere. And I'm really feeling like, what is she thinking? So she says she's Jamaican, and Kandi's like, does she even have a green card? Which is rude, but it's funny. And what I didn't like is, you know, don't come and tell me about anything that's going on or anything that has gone on with my relationship with my baby daddy. You know, I feel like that's the way Kandi should feel, and that's what Kandi should have definitely told her. What do you know about that? You haven't been around that long. She said she had only met Riley twice, and for whatever reason, and we all know the reason, it's Block, that Kelly was, or Kris Kelly was under the impression that Block got some negative vibes from Kandi, and that's why he's stepped away and backed off. And Kandi was like, that's BS. And I'm 100% on Kandi's side, and I 100% believe Kandi. One, because we know her, and two, because we have never, I didn't even know the dude's name. I mean, it's obvious that he's an absentee father. We were there when Riley said that she doesn't really care if she has a dad. And later on, we just have all the more incentive to believe Kandi's story. So Kandi did more than I would have done to entertain Kris. Kandi just told her, I don't have respect for him. And all the while, you know, Kandi's crew is out in the lobby area gossiping. And I believe that Kris Kelly had good intentions, but it's none of her business. Any conversation that Kris wanted to have about Riley should have went directly to Block and had nothing to do with Kandi. I don't know if she was attempting to get on TV or what, but she just overstepped her boundaries, in my opinion. So next, Kris leaves and says goodbye, and the crew is getting the tea on what happened, and Kandi is just giving it to him because she, you know, has no boundaries with them, to, you know, getting them to stay out of her business. But Todd is the only person who's kind of making sense in this, because he didn't get to know his daughter. He didn't even know of his daughter until she was a little bit older. And, you know, he thinks it would be really valuable if they, you know, kind of sat down and had a conversation about getting the relationship together. So next we see Kenya and Matt, and Kenya's complaining about this 8-hour drive that they have to take to Cincinnati because his family has a family reunion in a different location every time they have a family reunion, which is something that I would love to do. During this trip, Kenya won't shut up, and the only time Matt seems okay is when Kenya is asleep. And they're very corny together, and I actually like them together during this episode. So next we see Sheree and Bob, and I don't like the blonde hair on Sheree. She needs to stick to darker colors. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't look good on her, I don't think. But they're making smoothies, and he's talking about his weight loss, and the smoothies taste bad, but they still drink them. Bob talks about S&M, and Sheree kind of confirms it, and I'm kind of like, ew. And she's saying that, you know, everything that comes out of his mouth is either a joke or sex, and I think Sheree only wants an apology. Like, I'm not a big fan of Sheree. She's probably my least favorite housewife, but whenever it comes to Bob and her children and, you know, the divorce, that whole family arena, I actually like Sheree, because to me it's one of the only pieces of her life that's actually real and sincere and not about appearances and that type of thing. When he asked if he could move in, I was like, excuse me? So Sheree finally gets her house together and Bob tries to move in. Who seems like the gold digger now? Whatever. I'm glad she definitely said no. I'm upset that she gave him a little more hope than I thought she should have, that he would actually be able to move in. So whatever. So next we see Cynthia and Noelle, and Noelle is about to make some beignets. Beignets are amazing. I do live in Louisiana, and I just had some beignet sticks the other day. They're great. If you ever come to New Orleans or Louisiana, get you some beignets, get you some beignet mix with some powdered sugar. It's amazing. Look it up. And Mallory and I can't think of Cynthia's mom's name. I think it's Barbara. They come over to discuss what's going on with the divorce, and they are a lot better about it than I thought that they would be. I thought they would be kind of on some I told you so kind of stuff, but they were not. It was actually, you know, kind of refreshing to see them being more so supportive than we told you not to marry him. So anyways, when Mallory says I've been talking to Peter, I was like, excuse me, you've been doing what? Now Cynthia is, I don't know what's wrong with her. She is kind of idealistic when it comes to certain things that people would normally be offended about. She's not necessarily offended about. I definitely would not want my sister, who did not get along with my, you know, soon-to-be ex-husband, to be discussing my relationship with him. And on top of that, she didn't tell Cynthia about it soon enough. I don't like that, and I'm pretty sure Mallory and Peter have slept together, done something inappropriate at some point, and I don't like it. I feel like that was definitely crossing the line, but like in normal Cynthia fashion, you know, not wanting to ruffle any feathers, she's like, you know, of course you can talk to Peter, just come back and tell me everything. No ma'am, do not talk to my soon-to-be ex-husband, the person that you hid, you know, the marriage license from. No, you guys have too much water under the bridge for everything to be so peachy keen now, to the point where Peter is talking to Mallory more than he's talking to Cynthia. Nope, inappropriate. Next we see Porsha and Phaedra. They're going to work out in this nature trail area. Porsha talks about her ex-boyfriend Todd, that they've reconnected, and that he's a lobbyist in DC and he has a real job. Go ahead. And that she wants him to be the father of their child. She doesn't want to have a relationship with him, and she wants to be a single mother. I don't know why anybody would sign up to be a single mother, because look at all the things that Kandi is having to go through with having a baby daddy, and all of the things that Sheree went through being a divorced mom. I don't know why anybody would sign up for that, but whatever. Porsha says that Todd already has 2 kids and he's a great father, and it's like, how you know he's a great father? How you know that? You don't know that. And I thought it was very hypocritical of Phaedra to essentially tell Porsha to run from a man who has 2 kids when she has 2 kids herself. But whatever. Then they talk about a baby nut, which is not a bad idea. And it reminds me of the childbearing agreement that Dwight and Angela had in The Office, for any of y'all that watch The Office. But whatever. Like I said, a baby nut is not a bad idea, but just the word baby nut is silly. Anyways, Phaedra wants Porsha to have the fantasy, and that's a part of what's wrong with Phaedra, is that everything about her is fantasized. She fantasized about not already being like 9 months pregnant when she told everybody that she was 7 months pregnant. She fantasized about her husband not ever going back to prison, knowing that he had already been to prison, and knowing that he was bringing in money but no pay stub. So anyways, that's what's wrong with Phaedra, one of the things. But next we have Kenya and Matt. They sit down with Matt's parents and Matt's sister and a little girl named London, and the sister is already not here for it, but the mom is like, you know, don't come for my son on his you know, his wardrobe, that's my baby. And the sister is just pushing it, and she was like, you know, why is everybody taking Kenya's side? And we talk about what Kenya dislikes, but why isn't anybody talking about what Matt dislikes? And it's like, they already know Matt. They're trying to get to know Kenya. That's why she's answering all the questions. And but when the mom asked Kenya about her intentions, Kenya was like, you know, just for him to be the best that he can be, and for me to be the best I can be, and us to inspire each other to be the best we can be. It was very diplomatic, but they felt like she didn't answer the question. But the parents were trying to give them good advice about not always expressing the things that you feel in a relationship, which I think a lot of people could learn. But for some people, that doesn't necessarily work out. If you're in a relationship and you don't express yourself at all, you kind of lose yourself in it. And I watched a movie today called Big Eyes. It's on Netflix, and it was a really good movie. It's a true story. You guys need to check it out. But it was about a woman who had kind of lost her voice in the relationship, to her husband, and it cost her a lot. Okay, Big Eyes, look for it. Anyways, I'll put a link in the description box actually on Netflix. But anyways, Kenya, like she said, she thought that she was going to have the hardest time bonding with his mother and father, but the sister was the one that was really tripping, and she needs to chill out. But anyways, we see Kandi taking Riley to the dentist, and Kandi was criticizing Riley's lopsided ponytail, but I guess she took Riley's lopsided ponytail into the confessional. But anyways, Riley's really growing up. Kandi tells her about Kris Kelly coming to the candy factory, and Riley was basically like, that don't mean nothing to me. If he wanted a relationship, he would come. So erased, stricken from the record. So next we have Porsha and her Todd going to some exercise class, and he's actually a really good looking guy. So she said that they had gotten back together, but they're just friends. To me, they don't mean the same thing. If you got back together, I'm assuming they were in a relationship, but I guess that's not what she meant. But anyways, she started talking about the things that she wanted from her life and having kids and a family, and he was all cheesing and stuff. And she was like, you know, I want the baby, but not necessarily a marriage or a relationship. And he was like, okay. So he got real inquisitive and started asking questions like, so what you mean? What you mean by that? And she was telling him about wanting to be a single parent and them just having an agreement to co-parent, and he was like, that's moving too fast and I can't do that. And I, you know, applaud men that actually think about bringing children into this world with the thought that I am going to provide and take care of that child, and it wouldn't sit right with him. From what I took from it, it wouldn't sit right with him to have a child with someone and not be involved or more hands-on. Whereas on the other hand, you have Kandi, who's dealing with the baby daddy who doesn't even make an effort to contact his daughter. He's the adult in that situation, and he should, you know, pursue a relationship with his daughter. So for Todd to actually be that way, I thought it was real admirable. And so Porsha kind of got defensive, and he kind of, you know, talked her down a little bit, and he was like, you know, I want to prove to you that I can be more than just a baby daddy, that I can be the man that you want me to be in addition to being the father of your child, which I thought was sweet. And Porsha doesn't deserve it. But anyways, we're at Matt's family reunion, and the family is digging having a celebrity there. They're, you know, they're digging it. And the sister is very pressed, and she takes Kenya over to the side, and Kenya doesn't read her or her, you know, bad haircut at all. She doesn't even read her. And I thought it was very nice of Kenya to kind of quell the sister's fears and tell her, I just want you to have an open mind and an open heart, and to not shut me out immediately, which was essentially what she was doing. And then Matt comes over and was like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? And you know, they were both still alive, and no one's eyes has gotten scratched out, so everything was all good. Matt's mom is saying, you're the first person he's ever brought over. I think Matt is like 29. I think 29 is a little bit late to bring somebody over, but when you know that you are not in something for real, there really is no reason to bring somebody around your parents. You don't want to bring just anybody, because your family will not shut up asking about that person. They will never shut up. They won't. Next we have Sheree and Kandi, and Kandi struggling working out with Sheree, and they talk about Bob, and Sheree is trying to Sheree is talking to Kandi about the whole situation with Bob, and how, you know, so many bad things went down during the divorce, and that she doesn't necessarily see him owning up and taking accountability for the things that he did during the divorce, things that really hurt her. So next we have this, you know, the scene going back and forth between Kandi and Sheree and Block, which is Kandi's baby's daddy. And Block is with his girlfriend, and he's also with RL, the singer, and RL's wife, Lena, who was also Kandi's friend. Now, Kandi was saying that Block was an absentee parent, and Sheree was like, you know, Kandi, I've known Kandi for multiple years and I've never even heard Kandi talk about Block, like, at all. And apparently Porsha dated Block, which was like, that was juicy. It was like, what? And Sheree was like, you know, Porsha be laying it low and spreading it wide for everybody, which I didn't think was necessarily fair because we had just seen them, you know, having dinner together. But you know, these women change sides from liking to not liking each other so quickly. There was probably something that happened in between the confessional and that actual moment that made her not really be a fan of Porsha. So next, like I said, we're jumping back and forth scene to scene, and Block was saying essentially that Kandi, oh no, Kris said that Kandi and Riley had shut Block out. And he claims Lena was really trying to hold Block accountable. And Lena asked him, you know, was there any time that you actually didn't show up when you said you were going to be there? And he said one time. Kandi says it was a bunch of times, and I'm very inclined to believe her. I honestly don't think that, and Kandi said that, you know, her aunt was the one who told her, you know, do not interfere with Riley wanting a relationship with her father. And so I really don't think Kandi would do anything like that knowing that she didn't have the best relationship with her own father. What Kandi says to Sheree is that, you know, there's a lot of hurtful things that Block did that she keeps from Riley. And that just brings me back to my own childhood. Like, as I got older, I became aware of things that happened when I was much younger that some of my family members did. And I'm like, how could they do that? Why would they do that? And it's just very messed up, very confusing. Kandi mentioned a song that she had written about her stepdad, because if I remember correctly, Kandi had a stepfather that was really like a dad to her. And when Riley heard the song, she just broke down and was very upset that her own dad could not be like Kandi's stepfather was to her. And you know, that really hurt Kandi. And Sheree surprised me because, like I said, when it comes to things like children or divorce or, you know, bad relationships, that's the time that I like Sheree, because she's being the most real. And she was actually encouraging Kandi, which I thought was nice, to really give Block a chance to prove himself this time, because she knows that people can change from seeing Bob, you know, make the change to be there for their children. So Lena was really trying to hold Block accountable, and he just kind of seemed like he just didn't really want anything to do with it. Like, everything that was brought up, he just kind of seemed to have an excuse for it, and he really seemed like a deadbeat, and I'm sure he is. Next time on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, we have laser tag. We have Sheree and Bob sitting down and having dinner, and Sheree actually bringing up some hurtful things from that past. We have Cynthia and Leon, and I'm sure they cut some stuff together, but Leon is like, you know, let's go to the hotel. You don't ever trust a man with no last name. And more about Block and Kandi, and Mama Joyce acting a fool, but actually having a reason to act a fool this time. Thank you guys for watching this video. Super long, but I was so interested in I was super interested in this particular episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. Thank you guys. Like, comment, and subscribe, and tell your friends to subscribe too. Peace out, home slices.